Jay here for Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, we're live. We're in the studio talking about all the latest Manchester United news. So make sure you're getting involved in the chat and the comments. We're going to be talking a little bit more on that Jason Wilcox interview because a lot of the papers this morning on the back pages were focusing on that, focusing on the aspects of Manchester United being willing to spend and back Ruben Amorim. Talking of Ruben Amorim as well, we've got some quotes from his press conference ahead of the Nottingham Forest game, which is going to be a year in charge of Manchester United for the Portuguese Magnifico, and we'll be getting into some other stories as well. Good to see the usual suspects and some new ones in the chat as well. Notch is here. He says Friday. Yes, it's Friday. Akash K, Maurice Marshall, Abhishek Devgan is here. Maurice Marshall, Akash. I've said these names before. Forgive me. Joseph Stanley says, morning Jay, looking forward to this weekend. I'm looking forward to this weekend. It feels a bit weird saying that, doesn't it, when Manchester United are playing? Used to be sort of approaching it with a sense of dread, but I'm actually looking forward to seeing the Reds play Nottingham Forest, and hopefully we can make it 4 wins on the spin. Who'd have thunk it, eh? The dizzy heights of having 4 wins on the spin and where that could take us in the table. Right, let's talk a little bit about this sort of quote or this United spend story. So this is from the BBC. They've done their little roundup of news stories from Friday's newspapers. You can see there, and they're saying that focused on Ruben Amorim being backed financially at Manchester United. Director of Football Jason Wilcox has said, we have got a clear plan. We know what we have got to do. We know the areas of the team that we have got to improve. Is there a little bit more there? Can we scroll up a little bit? For us to get in the top 4 and consistently challenge for Champions League places, win Champions League, win Premier Leagues, we have got to invest in the squad. We have got to buy the right players who are talented, but also who can deal with the pressure, who can take the squad forward. I mean, I spoke about this yesterday because that interview came out just before we went live, but it's worth sort of revisiting because the papers are still talking about it and because the narrative is sort of forming here that Ruben Amorim's being backed. And it's good to see. I like the idea that he's getting that support, he's getting that backing, that we're looking at it long term with him at the helm. I want Ruben Amorim to succeed. I want him to have a lot of success and win trophies at Manchester United. I think we've still got to be slightly cautious. I know some people are going early and going, right, 3 in a row, that's it. Anyone who criticised Ruben Amorim was wrong, we're set, we're all good. But I've seen this before at Manchester United. I've seen it with this manager where things can sort of unravel quickly. So whilst I've always said, I think long-term Ruben Amorim can do well, and obviously I want him to, I do understand the argument of like, let's just be a little bit cautious for some people. I mean, it's just hard, isn't it, not to get carried away when we've had such a difficult time as Manchester United fans over the last 18 months, whatever it's been, and then you start winning football matches, you just want to go, don't you? You want to go like, full in. We'll see. I'll probably be the worst one for it if we beat Forest on Saturday, or should I say when we beat Forest on Saturday. Let me know what you think. What do you think about Jason Wilcox and his relationship with Ruben Amorim? He does seem to be quite supportive. It's obvious that their sort of careers are entwined because all the noise was that Jason Wilcox and Omar Brada were very heavily in favour of bringing in Ruben Amorim. Dan Ashworth, not so much. Dan Ashworth ends up getting sacked. Not just because of that, but that seems to have played a big part in the reason that Sir Jim Ratcliffe decided he wasn't the right man for the job. And Jason Wilcox obviously still in his role. So it does feel as though if Ruben Amorim was to be sacked, it was just to get untenable where he it was obvious he wasn't going to bring the glory days back to Old Trafford, then that wouldn't look too great for Jason Wilcox. So obviously Jason Wilcox wants him to succeed, wants to give him the tools he needs to succeed. We'll just have to wait and see whether that happens. But so far, me and Joe were talking about this yesterday in a video on Off the Bar. The signings have been very good. I think the signings under INEOS on the whole have been almost perfect. I think there's 1 or 2, maybe Xerxes and Ugarte, you could say, not quite worked out the way we hoped. But certainly this summer as well, you look at the signings we've made, and Bumo is absolutely smashing it. I think he deserves Player of the Month. I don't know if he'll get it, but he should get it. Benjamin Sesko, I think, has been very good as well. Cunha looks like that guy, doesn't he? Le Mans, the keeper's come in and he's done really well. And also, even Diego Leon, just one for the future, but makes a lot of sense and scored a wonder goal the other day. I know I repeat this a lot, but I've been impressed with the signings. I don't often say that. Jordy Pillion's in the chat, Malcolm Campbell in the chat, Harry on the boat, Brian Casey is in the chat. Akash K says, I think it's clear Wilcox and co will back Amorim to the very end. The only question is when Sir Jim Ratcliffe was asked about it. Will the Glazers continue to sit idly and let Amorim do what he needs to? It does feel as though the Glazers sort of taking a backseat, which is, I mean, I want them to take a backseat right out the back of the car and out the boot, to be honest with you. But they do seem to have taken a backseat and just left the football side of things to Sir Jim Ratcliffe. Because when he first came in, there was always talk that he was going to be in charge of like certain parts of the club and maybe not others, but it just feels like he's in charge of everything, to be honest with you. And they're just going, you know what, actually, you can deal with everything, not just the football side, actually, even the commercial side, it seems to be his remit as well. They're always happy with what he's doing. He's put his own money into the club, which is something they never did. We can't say he's turned things around because he hasn't. We're still a work in progress. I think it's fair to say we did finish 15th last season and lose a final to Spurs. And even this season, whilst we are on a good run, it hasn't been all brilliant, has it? It's not been all sunshine and rainbows. We're out the Carabao to Grimsby Town and we've lost to City, Arsenal and Brentford. But there are some green shoots there and that's what I'm hanging on to. Wilcox, just on Jason Wilcox as well, the Independent, because every paper sort of picks up on this, to be honest with you. They're running the story. This was from yesterday afternoon, they ran it. Saying United's Director of Football Jason Wilcox has detailed how the club are dialed in on areas of the team that need improvement. And there's this sort of narrative in there that, look, we know where we need to improve. We know it's not Prince Andrew latest. There you go. Disgraced Royal loses his title if anyone wants to hear about that one. It's ads. It's all right, you can get rid of that. Go on, it's all right. I think the ads are wreaking havoc there. Producer Harry's trying to sort of navigate those many pop-ups. We get the gist of it. They're going to back this manager. They believe in this manager, but they're aware that areas need improving. I think any United fan, person, anyone who watches the team, associated with the club, can see where there is room for improvement. Is this team the finished article? No. Do we need more players? Yes. The obvious area is midfield. Casemiro's done very well this season, but he's 33, I think he is. Bruno Fernandes, I think he could end up playing into his mid-30s, but is he 30, 31, Bruno? So, let me just double check that. Sorry, I should know that. I'm a big Bruno fan. It's shocking that I don't. So, he's not going to be around forever. I think he's 31. So, you can see us going for another midfielder at least, maybe even two. Other areas you look at, could we do with other options at centre-back? Could we do with other options as a striker? It's maybe not urgent, but if, as we plan for and hope and expect, Manchester United get back into the Champions League, you're going to need a bigger squad. You're going to need a bigger boat. You are going to need more bodies, aren't you? You are going to need more options. I think we're not a million miles away from that. We have actually got decent options in some areas. I mentioned centre-back. We've actually got quite a few centre-backs. I mentioned... I didn't mention the number 10 role. We've got probably 4 or 5 people that can play in the number 10 role. So you look at those areas in particular, you think, yeah, quite strong. It's just other areas where you go midfield there. If something happens to Casemiro, is Guy ready? Is Kamenu fill that role? I don't know. We definitely need strengthening there. Also, if Sesko gets injured, what are we going to do with striker? Yes, you can play on Bumo and Cunha there. Is that ideal? I don't know. But I fully expect Manchester United in the summer window to spend money. I'm not so sure. I said this yesterday. I'm not so sure we're going to do that in January. It all depends, doesn't it? Depends where we're up to. Jordan Fielding says, hopefully that backing is getting Adam Wharton. He is actually perfect for us. And then try and find a left wing back. If somehow, you could get Davis from Bayern for 50 million or less. Kevin Credible, with a great question, says, I forget how Liverpool got on midweek. Anyone remember? I'm not sure. I'd have to check this because I've not really been following what they've been up to, Liverpool. I think they might have lost 3-0 at home to Crystal Palace in the Carabao Cup. I think that's what happened. Let me double check that because I'm not 100% sure. If anyone knows, just by all means, get involved in the chat. Brian Casey says, Ben Stiller's nephew looks like a decent midfielder. Angelo Stella, I think it's pronounced. Yep, he's a player we've been linked with as well. There are options there, aren't there? There are players we've been linked with. There's areas you can see us going for. We'll have to wait and see. But certainly Jason Wilcox seems determined to back this manager. And why not, man? If you're going to do it properly. A full named Huggy says, need some better depth across the midfield for maybe another striker, but we ain't too far off being right. I think that's not that inaccurate. I don't think United are that far away. There's times when I've watched United, right, post Fergie, and I've just gone, no, No. Like, Jesus wept. We're Ralph Ragnick levels of open heart surgery constantly. You look at the times, not all the time, you look at it and you go, I think there's about 2 or 3 players in this squad that are good enough to win titles. We need a massive overhaul. I don't feel like that in a minute. I don't. I'm not saying that it's all perfect and we're ready, but you look throughout that team, you look throughout that squad, there's a lot of quality there. There is. And I look at it, I look at the goalkeeper's done well so far. Hopefully he can continue to do well. You look at defensively, players like Lisandro Martinez, hopefully when he comes back. I love Martinez. Dyche has been phenomenal. Yoro, fantastic player. Maguire, said it a million times. We need to stop the Maguire's rejuvenated narrative, because he's just been very good for a long time now. Luke Shaw does very well at left centre back, keeps himself fit. Then Aiden Heaven signing. I mean, you could go through the entire squad, couldn't you? Midfield, I admit, there were some issues there, but in the number 10 role, you've got Mason Mount, who's done very well, you've got Brian Mbeumo, you've got Mateus Cunha. If you wanted, you could play Ahmad there. Bruno can even be pushed forward and play there. There's options. Joshua Zirkzee, I noticed that the jury was out on him a little bit earlier, but he can play there and he could do a decent job there. So it's not terrible. Obviously, you could probably do a backup striker to Benjamin Sesko. Wing backs, you've got Dorgu, you've got Delo. Ahmad can play at wing back. Could you maybe do with a bit of strengthening there? I know we've got Diego Leon, but he's one for the future. We'll have to wait and see. Another interesting sort of point to all this is some of the academy players. We speak to Finn every week, Academy Review. He speaks about players like Shea Lacey. Someone like Shea Lacey, who was training with the England squad only a few weeks ago. He could come in maybe even this season during AFCON and do a job. It'd be interesting to see how the likes of Shea Lacey do. Does something happen with someone like Bendito Montalto? Is he going to get minutes? He's a player that can play as a 10 or as a wing-back. Seems like he's ideal for Ruben Amorim's system. Maybe someone like Jim Thwaitsu. Again, Finn has praised quite a lot. Plus, you've got other players who might not necessarily come all the way through the academy, but have played at a younger level. Saka Kone, another player. Chido Obi, of course, who we saw a lot of last season. So, if those younger players develop, and if we sign a few players, then maybe Manchester United will be fully back. Jordan Fielding says, are we not buying a backup striker because by next season we bring in Chido? I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Last season was a bit of a mixed bag for Chido Obi, wasn't it, in the first team? Because I was a little bit gutted that he didn't get a goal. I know he got one in friendlies, but in a competitive game, because I think it just would have given him that little bit of a boost, and people love stats, don't they? And, he's got a goal. But I thought his performance levels were quite good. I thought when you could see what he was about, you could see when he came on in certain games, he played really well, even if he didn't get a goal. So I was impressed. And I like the fact that Ruben Amorim looked at it and went, in an ideal world, I wouldn't have been throwing this kid in, but I needed him. He probably needs to develop. He probably needs to play under 18s level, under 21s level, get some minutes at that level, and then we can bring him back into the first team squad and manage his minutes there. So I get that thinking. I don't think it's like the wrong way to do it, because usually when you bring a young player into the first team, more often than not, they stay around it, don't they, if they're any good. It's quite rare that a young player comes into the first team, does well, and then spends loads of time back in the academy. But I think with Chido, he's still quite young, and as a striker as well, it's a little bit different, isn't it? Because there's a lot more pressure on you, expectation, you're that one guy, aren't you? It's sort of everyone's focused on getting the goals and stuff. So I do understand where Ruben Amorim is coming from. Ant L says, got to get Mateta and Gay on freeze, been mad not to. I think Matt Gay is going to Liverpool. I think that's almost a done deal, although he might have looked at their recent form and thought, no, thank you, I'd rather go anywhere else. I'd rather stay at Sellers Park. Coach Zach USMC Vet, who's been a member of the first team for 58 months, thank you for your support. I'm so excited to watch us play. Haven't had that in years. We are fun to watch again. I hope he starts giving minutes to Ahmad and Brian backups. Very good point, Nick, on that front. Ride says, Jay, we are one injury to Mbeumo and Casemiro away from oblivion. Again, we did struggle, didn't we, when Casemiro went off against Brighton. And he does seem like he's become almost integral, which is weird because when Amorim first came in, I think he played initially and then there was a time when he wasn't playing. But yeah, he does seem very important. I get that, and Brian Mbeumo's doing very well. There are options there, though. And we're going to find out, aren't we, in AFCON, what those options are. Because while you can look at Brian Mbeumo, because well, actually, you could, when Brian Mbeumo's not there, you could put Ahmad there. Well, you can't do that in AFCON, because Ahmad's going to AFCON as well. Do you bring in someone like Shea Lacey? Obviously, there's going to be a bit of a drop-off, because Brian Mbeumo, who's a very strong, first-team player with loads of Premier League experience, being replaced by a kid who'd be making his basic Premier League debut, is going to be, a bit of a step down, no respect to Shea Lacey, of course. I'm sure he's got a very, very bright future indeed. But you've still got someone like Mateus Cunha, you've still got Mason Mount, you've still got options there. You can always push Bruno further forward, maybe you have your guy in Mainu in your midfield. There are options there, but I understand the sentiment of it could damage us. I don't know if we're back to oblivion. I won't go quite that far. Jordy Pillin said, how was the holiday, mate? It was great, it was good, loads of sun, kids loved it, had a great time. Even better, when I sat down, watched United, beat Brighton, and then went about my evening and sort of checked the other results and saw, we saw that City, obviously, I think, was it City the next day? But Liverpool losing, City losing, just phenomenal. What a great time. What a great time to be alive and be a Red. I think we've got some quotes from Ruben Amorim. Obviously did his presser yesterday, did it a little bit earlier. Sometimes it's most days on a Friday. It was yesterday, it was. He said what he's learned as a year as Manchester United boss. It's 1 year tomorrow, I think it is, since he took the helm. During my career as a manager, most of the time I was winning. When you are winning, you can say that you have convictions and you are loyal to your ideas. But you learn when you lose, when you are under pressure, and I learned that when I'm under pressure, I'm stronger on my ideas and I keep with my ideas. Of course, it's really important to feel the support of everyone in the club, especially the fans that help you, to give you that confidence to continue on your path. But that was the biggest learning point. When I'm under pressure, I can stick with my plan. Sticking to his guns there when he's under pressure. Look, Ruben Amorim, in terms of the way he handles the media, in terms of the way he comes across with the press, is second to none. I think he's a 10 out of 10 sort of guy when it comes to handling the media. Yes, there's been a few sticky moments after the Grimsby game, for example, where you could see he looked done in. But he wears out on his sleeve. He's very honest. I appreciate the honesty as well from a United manager. And I think, by and large, he does get it right. He does sort of get the media buying into what he's trying to do. And I think you look at the relationship Erik Ten Hag had with the press, it was very difficult, very prickly. And he'd have arguments, wouldn't he, in press conferences. I remember, was it Ian Ladyman where he said, mentioned about the issues United had, and he went, well, what are they then? And Ian Ladyman, I think, just listed loads of things that were going wrong at United, and it just looked ridiculous. I think Ruben Amorim does do the media stuff quite well, and he says a lot of the right things, and I thought he said it against Aston Villa at the end of last season. Was it that game? Got back from Bilbao where we'd lost to Spurs. Everyone's pretty deflated. Went to the Villa game. He was getting his name sung before the game, so the fans were still backing him, and I think he's right to sort of point that out, that the fans have been very supportive. And after the game, he gave a little speech on the pitch, and he said about the whole storm is coming thing when he came in, and United had a couple of wins and a draw, whatever it was, and he said, the storm is coming. It's not going to be the good times just yet. A storm is coming. Then we had that horrible run. We ended up finished 15th. That after the Villa game, he said, look, I said a storm is coming. Now the good times are coming. I bought into that. I was like, yeah, like, I trust this guy. He's going to do it for us. You've had a difficult start to this season, a bit patchy. Now things are starting to look better. Hopefully the good times are coming. I think we've got something on... Have we done the Ruben Amorim first year thing? No. Yeah, sorry. Is that the... Ruben? So there's a long piece here. I won't go into this like fully, because this is a really long article, I think, in The Guardian. It's interesting to say that you saw Ruben Amorim giving Jamie Jackson a pat on the back as he walked into the press conference yesterday, and we've had Jamie on the channel, and a lot of people saying, oh, Jamie's too harsh on Ruben Amorim, and Amorim must hate him, but they seem to have actually a decent relationship. So it's looked at it. It's been a bit of a up and down one, hasn't it? Look, I can't sit here and pretend that the year that Ruben Amorim's been in charge has been fantastic, because it hasn't. We've lost a lot of games. I think we've lost almost as many as we've won. Obviously finishing 15th, losing to Spurs, Grimsby and all that jazz. However, we'll talk about this the other day with Joe. If you're going to have sort of, whatever it is, I think it's 21, 22 wins that Ruben Amorim's had and 19 or 20 losses, I think it's 19 losses. If you're going to have that record over a year, the best way to have the record is you've won the last 3 games. That is the best way to have it being all up and down, and then the last few games are the ones you've been winning consecutively, how you want to say it. That is what we've done in a minute. That gives you a little bit of glimmer of hope, doesn't it? If we had this record that was so patchy and we lost the last 3 games, people are going, But we have got these green shoots, and I do feel, genuinely, that this is the best group of players that Ruben Amorim has had since he's been manager. I feel that. I feel that the signings have worked that we've made in the summer. I feel now they're all showing what they're about. I think Cunha is looking better than he's ever looked for United over the last few games. I think Bumo is ditto. Sesko, you could argue the same as well. So that helps. I think some of the other players that were injured or weren't available all the time for Ruben Amorim are now back and they're firing on all cylinders. Luke Shaw's been a very good player for Ruben Amorim. Mason Mount, I know he didn't play recently because he's had an injury, but he's been fit and playing very well this season. The keeper's come in and done very well. So I just feel like you're looking at it going, the last few games have obviously all been wins. The squad and the team are looking stronger than they've ever looked under Ruben Amorim. There's reasons to think this could be the this could be the start of something. Let me know what you think. Harry on the boat says, now we just need to not sell any players and keep building a full squad with 2 to 3 decent players in each position. Yep. Harry on the boat says 100% as well. Soldier first class says, happy 6L in 7 games. Jay, yes. Akash K says spot on, Jay. Stephanie Griffith says 700 watching, still not 100 likes. Great point. Steve M says, Mbumo and Cunha were Premier League players. Sesko and Lemons have come in from other countries, leagues and cultures, and Amorim has eased them into the team. Short-term pain for long-term gain. Yeah, seems to be working, doesn't it? It does. Obviously, like I said earlier, got to be cautious, but we can enjoy the wins. We can enjoy it when we're in a good bit of form. What's the point in being a football fan if you can't enjoy it when you're doing really well and when the Scousers are losing every week? Let's talk about Sean Dyche. This is a masterclass in backtracking. So Sean Dyche, was it on the overlap, was it? Where he was sat there with his chest out saying he could have done a better job than Ruben Amorim. And then he gets a job at Forest. He's got to face Ruben Amorim, who started winning football matches consistently. And then he goes back on what he said. So he says here, clickbait kills everything. I equally said I want managers to be given time. So he's kind of backtracking a little bit there in the old Dyche. Come on. Ruben Amorim handled this question really well. It was put to him about what Sean Dyche said. And he said, look, I prefer it when people are honest on podcasts and say things, that are interesting rather than just being a bit boring or whatever. I thought he handled it, as he often does, really well. Sean Dyche has asked a similar question. He's not. I'd be surprised if Sean Dyche, to be fair to him, came out and said, yeah, I stand by it. I could do a much better job at Manchester United. I should be the United manager. That would be a little bit stupid. So I understand why he's done that, but it's quite funny, isn't it? Bikers to F8 Dogma says, Dyche backtracking hard. Financially free says, what should be a perfect midfield pairing for Manchester United for the future, in your opinion? I wouldn't mind seeing Wharton and Mainu. Obviously, you'd find a role for Bruno further up the pitch. Let's talk about Paul Scholes, just on this one. So Paul Scholes, you got to see this from TCO. He's a Palace fan, but he's a good guy. I've been on his podcast. So Scholes has spoken about, is it son Aiden, I think it is, looking after his son and taking a step back from live commentary, because I think his son... if I read this, so he just says, I would just like to thank everyone for all your kind messages since the overlap interview regarding Aiden. There's been loads and tried to read as many as possible. The response from families, especially dads, shows how much speaking about it helps so many. There was one quote from a parent in a similar position that just got me. My job is to stay alive for one day longer than my daughter. Yeah, quite deep. So I think his son, Aiden, is autistic. His son Aiden, he's autistic, neurodiverse. He's autistic, and he has his routines, and he needs a little bit more looking after than other kids that age. So Scholes come out and said, "Look, I'm going to take a bit of a step back from stuff like live commentary and spend more time looking after my son, Aiden." And you got to respect that and admire that. And I, as a dad myself, I get it. I get the idea that you have to sort of focus on your children, and I've got some experience around this as well, and I think he's doing a fantastic job, and I think it's a testament to just what sort of a guy he is, that he's putting his family first, and it's like, look, you might miss out on some big paydays or whatever, or gigs or whatever, but this is the most important thing. And that's what Scholes was like as a player. Let's not forget. You didn't see Scholes here on loads of adverts, didn't you? It wasn't those guys, one of the guys that was up for all the commercial deals and all that. He was all about his football. That was all he focused on. And that's why a lot of other footballers admire him so much, not just because he's one of the greatest midfielders ever lived, but his attitude towards the game. And I think he's taking that same attitude towards his family. It's all about his family. And you've got to respect that. And I've just got massive love and admiration for Paul Scholes. Yeah, loads of people just agreeing with that. Simone Giovonda, Scholes, Hart, Stephanie Griffith, Josh Brown says, get Joe back. Sorry, Josh. I'll try harder next time, or we can get Joe back. Akash K says, family comes first. Heaven's Soul says, Paul Shoes, what a man. Yeah, what a man indeed. I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you to everyone who got involved in the chat and the comments. Going to be back later on today with The Brew. Me and Stephen Alson going to be on that one, obviously. So make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe. I'm Jay Moyer. This has been The Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.